Watching the Keith Andrew Network. That's right, the one and only Keith Andrew Network. This is episode 708. 708. I'm here as a good friend of mine. He's been on my show not once, not twice. This is the third time. I'm here with Bear. I'm sorry?
Third time. I'm very excited.
Oh, I thought you said fifth time. It's like, wait, did I miscount? I'm here with Barry Papick. It's great to have you on the show once again. You're a good friend of mine. We were supposed to do an episode earlier, but that was my mistake. My phone, I don't know if you have this problem with your phone. When you read messages, like on emails, and you don't delete them at all, you just close out of them and you go back to it, it's gone. It's kind of like, I don't know what annoying feature that is. I can turn it off. It's a real pain in the ass.
Yeah, that is crazy.
But like I said, for everyone who wants to know who Barry Papick is, you are an acting coach, and you are a former professional actor.
I am. I'm a present professional actor.
Oh, nice.
Acting is still my business, and then I coach also.
No, absolutely. So we're gonna focus on most of the coaching, and then you can ask me anything you want because you've been on the show. You know the whole format. Anything can happen on the Keith Andrew Network, PG-13. Remember that, you do have freedom to say whatever you like. So the first question I want to ask you, and my guest who was an upcoming actress, she would have been perfect for you to work with. Actually, I have a bunch of people I can point in your direction. The first question I want to ask you is, how can somebody become an actor? Because the show's about disabilities. For an example, if I wanted to work with you, what are the processes that I would have to go through?
Well, I think the first thing you have to see is, you look at my website, which is barrypapick.com, and you see if our techniques mesh, because everybody does a lot of different things. So, and my work is not for everybody. It's deeper, and it's a little bit harder than a lot of other techniques out there. It challenges you more, and you have to be more honest with yourself. So, there are people who just want to lie, and, there's places, for them. And then there's people who want to tell their own truth, and then they come to me.
No, I agree. Now, to sound like an oxymoron, but you accept everyone and everyone.
I do. What I'll do is I'll talk to the people. I'll let them come in, for a class or two. And if it suits them, then that's great. And if it doesn't suit them, they'll know quickly. I never tell anybody they can't study with me. But, there are definitely people that this work is just not right for.
All right. Well, because you know me for a couple of years now, everything you base your knowledge on that you've seen on my work, do you think I have what it takes to be an actor? And with people with disabilities, well, let's go with the first one. If everything you know about me, do you think I would be a good fit?
Absolutely. And I'll tell you why. Because I think that, you're available and you want, you're really positive. So all I ask for is that people who come to my class are available and really, want to do it. I've coached some of the most famous people in Hollywood. I've been really lucky. We won an Academy Award. I've coached on Broadway. And all I ask for is that, if you're there, you want to be a better actor. And I think you do. I think that you're very positive. So I would have no problem with you in my class.
No, absolutely. And now, what was the reward that you got?
We won an Academy Award for, I was coaching Jamie Foxx on Ray.
Oh, that's very awesome. Congratulations on that.
Well, thank you. And, like I said, I've coached on 7 or 8 major motion pictures. I've been the on-set coach. I've coached on pretty much every episodic on television. And plus, like I said, I make my living as an actor. Last year I did 5 movies. I've been in some major movies. I did a movie called Simone with Al Pacino. I did a movie called Finding Forrester with Sean Connery, which I was also the on-set acting coach for. So, I dabble in just about everything.
Hey, if you can put a good word in for Al Pacino, I'd love to sit down with him.
Yeah, well, Al is wonderful, and we had a great time, and it was really wonderful working with him. He's very intense guy and just great.
No, absolutely. I never met him, but my father met him. My father's a former assistant principal, and I don't know how this came about. This guy who's working with my dad's like, "Oh, you want to have a pizza with me and Al?" It's like, okay, some guy named Al. And he came over, he took his head. I was like, oh, it's Al freaking Pacino. So they were talking about. So my dad met a lot of famous people. And as I told you before, I met Al Pacino. He met Mayor Giuliani before he sold his soul. He was on the parade with John Glenn. He wrote in Heroes, had Wesley Snipes in his class. He worked with, during summer school, he worked with Tony Bennett's wife. So my dad met a whole bunch of great people.
Yeah, I've been lucky. So have I. And I've met Tony Bennett. Tony was really nice, and Sean Connery, and Pacino. I've been really fortunate. I coached Dennis Quaid and F. Murray Abraham. So it's been an interesting career.
Now, for your coaching, can you give us some examples of how you coach somebody?
Well, basically what I do is we break down the script. We look at the script through the actions, and then we also look at the character through the need. We try to make the character 360-degree character, so the character's interesting. I always say if the audience walks out thinking, that was really fantastic, you've probably not done your job. And if the audience walks out thinking, oh my God, how would I react in that situation? Then you've probably done your job.
No, absolutely. For an example, I will give you some examples. These are not like, oh my God, it's the best movie, I want to see it over again. But there's certain movies that kind of strike a chord. You see those war movies, or like after you're done, you're pale in the face, and like you actually felt like you're in the freaking film. Mm-hmm. And you see in the 9/11 films, or 9/93, where the last thing you see is the ground. And I tell you, I wasn't there, but my parents were there. At the end of that theater, no sound, absolutely nothing. You could hear a pin drop. That's how dead silence that was.
Yeah, well, there's some great movies like that. Like Deer Hunter is a great movie where, you walk out and you can't even speak after it because, it affects you in that kind of way. And there's some also wonderful directors. Gus VanSant, who I coach with a lot, is an incredible director, and he knows how to touch people. And Quentin Tarantino's like that. So, it just matters who you're working with. No,
likewise. And there's some movies where were absolutely brilliant. Blazing Saddles, Spaceballs, any Mel Brooks movies, it's got to be great.
Fantastic. Well, the writing in those movies are just amazing.
No, the biggest thing is if you can connect with anyone, even if that's one person you connect with, and you can make it impressive. I'll give you an example. Someone once said to me, it doesn't matter how big of an impression you leave. If you want to reach thousands, or even one person, if you can leave an impression on that person, then your job's done. Then you did the right thing.
It says in the Bible, change one life, change the world. And, I agree with that. If you touch one person, then you've done your job.
No, absolutely. Now, next question I'm going to ask you is, who influenced you Actually, let me rephrase that because there's two questions like that. Who
Okay.
do you admire and why?
Well, acting wise, it's always been Marlon Brando, Al Pacino, Rob De Niro. Those are the guys that, do the kind of work that I've always wanted to do and aspire to do. When you see Brando in a lot of his work, Godfather, of course, but Last Tango in Paris, Guys and Dolls, it's really just better than everybody else. And when you see, the early Pacino stuff and you see the early De Niro stuff, it's just pretty amazing. Recently, I went to the 40th anniversary of The Godfather Part 2 and got to see De Niro on a big screen. And, it was just amazing. It's, something you don't get the opportunity to see all the time. And, it makes you want to be a better actor.
No, I agree. And now the other question I was going to start with, but I thought this one would be better. Going back to the first one is, who has, I know you mentioned some names, so it's kind of like an oxymoron. It's like, well, he doesn't answer the question, but you're acting again. But who has inspired you in your life and that said, you know what, this is what I want to do? The very first person.
Well, no, I think that's a great question. The first person that really inspired me was a woman named Elaine Aiken. She was an incredible teacher. And through Elaine, I met Lee Strasberg. And Lee was the greatest acting teacher, I think, of his time, and one of the greatest acting teachers ever. And Lee inspired me a lot. Besides being one of the most intelligent people I'd ever met, he was also one of the most thoughtful and just a great acting teacher. So, Lee was my first real inspiration. And then I was really lucky because I was in New York, at a very fertile time. And, I studied with Uta Hagen and I studied with Stella Adler and Michael Moriarty, so some really great people. And then I met a woman named Susan Batson, and Batson was able to take all of these things and put them together for me. And, she was just a terrific acting teacher. She still teaches in New York City, and just a terrific acting teacher. And she taught me a lot about, how to take all these techniques that I had learned and put them together in one hat and create a technique for myself.
That's how you should do. How it should be. If you have the passion for it, you focus on that. As I mentioned, I interviewed a couple other people, and say you have to have a plan A, B, and C. Never just say, this is my plan A, and if you fall on your face, you're going to be, well, what am I supposed to do now? You need a backup plan. It's not saying you should have a backup plan all the way up to Z, even though that would be nice, but you should have like some common sense saying, well, it should work out, but if it doesn't, you should always have a plan B and C.
Yeah, well, you know what? I'll tell you the truth. I never really had a backup plan. I was always going to be an actor. And, I start right when I got out of college, I decided, this is what I wanted to do. And I was really lucky that, I was able to do it. And I was really lucky that I met the right people to steer me in the correct direction.
No, I agree. It's always nice to have someone in your corner to point you in the right direction.
Absolutely.
And the next one I want to ask is going back to your acting, teasing. Say, for example, you are working with a bunch of people with disabilities. Use me for an example. Mm-hmm. Say, what would be the best working environment?
Well, I think it's still, the same, doing the work that we do. Because, working with someone with disabilities, it's still about emotional recall. And it's still about what they've done in their life. And what I try to do with each one of my clients, and I try to be different with each one of my clients. I try to get to know who they are, what affects them. And then once I get to know what affects them, then I can move on and, and teach them the work. But it's really very individual, and it matters, who that person is. And once you understand, who that person is, then you can teach them how to, just be honest in front of the camera.
Now, would you consider that more of a business practice? And if everyone in a business actually followed that logic, they would be better off and the employees would be much happier?
Absolutely. But of course, I have to say that because that's what I teach. But I believe that, that great actors work from themselves and find greatness within themselves. And the great actors that I knew, like, Pacino and De Niro and Shelley Winters, who was a good friend of mine. Those people are people that, really know how to work through themselves. Now, it's difficult because you have to be honest with yourself. And every day you learn. I mean, I'm not a young guy, but I still learn every day. And, that's what makes it exciting. And that's, what makes me continue. If I wasn't learning every day, if I wasn't growing every day, I think it would become boring.
That's true. And you never want to be bored. It's kind of like, well, if I'm a big wrestling fan, you see the same matches over and over and the same announcers. Okay, announcers, they can be funny because they can be real. But if you see the same thing over and over, it kind of gets stale and repetitive.
I agree. And it's the same thing with acting. If you say, if you're doing the same thing over and over again, it becomes stale, and you might as well be selling used cars in Van Nuys. You want to continually search for new things and continually search yourself.
No, that's right. For an example, back in the day, are you a wrestling fan?
Come see, come saw.
Well, it's hit or miss. But back in the day, it was the Monday Night War between WWF and WCW. And it was completely amazing. And of course, towards the end, it got stupid because they would say, okay, let's see what WCW's doing. Let's copy them. WCW would be like, oh, let's see what Vince McMahon's doing. Copy them. Now, it's really hard to be creative because, TNA Wrestling copies WWE and WWE copies TNA. Once you start copying each other, you're not being original. It's like saying, okay, I took a crap here. Well, I'm going to take one bigger over here, but we're going to only paint it a different color. It doesn't change anything. You're just taking someone's idea and you're just adding to it. So it's really being the best to be original. Like for me, no one ever had a talk show who's being an example for people with disabilities. I like Bill Maher. I like Bill O'Reilly, even though Bill O'Reilly is invisible right now. But, like with Bill Maher, it's kind of like, I want to copy what you're doing, but at the same time, put my own spin to it. And
absolutely. And, can I tell you something? That's the way that I teach acting also, is that, I was very lucky. I studied with Lee Strasberg. I studied with Uta Hagen. I studied with Susan Batson. But the work that I do is my own. And, it's work that, and that's the great thing about acting is it grows. I took Stanislavski's work, and I read Stanislavski's books, but that was 100 years ago. Then I studied with Lee Strasberg, and that was 50 years ago. So what I really want to do is make sure that every day that I grow, not only as an actor, but as an acting teacher, and that the work that I do is a little bit more in depth and a little bit different than what they do because I grow and I'm still around.
No, I agree. For an example, I don't know if I showed you my wrestling belt. Okay, it's not a wrestling belt, but it is and it isn't. But I made myself a trophy. And my brother made fun of me because you don't buy yourself a trophy. Trophies are earned. So I could have gone into like something like season 101, and I got 2, drink. But then I said, you know what? I want to get one big thing that will commemorate from when I started to the day that I die. And I know people say I sound morbid when I say that, but this is how passionate I am. So I made myself a wrestling belt. I can show you after. And it's pretty much, I went to a wrestling convention, and my brother's like, "You're not bringing that to the wrestling convention because you're going to antagonize people, or wrestlers might actually challenge you for the belt." And I said, "Oh, if they want to be a handicap champion, they're more than welcome to." And so when you explain what the belt is, then they're like, "Okay, it's nice." Certain people looked at the belt and said, "What the hell am I looking at?" But there's other people like Eric Bischoff, Kristen Cage, some of the beautiful women too. They actually look at it and said, I actually met with the New York Comic Con, like I was telling you a while ago. I met Wahora, and a lot of people say, she's old and she's kind of ditzy or whatever. But she looked at it and said, "I'm very interested and intrigued by this belt." So I said briefly, because there was a big line behind me, I have a learning disability. I created a talk show to show people with disabilities, look at what I can accomplish. And she said, "You should be proud of yourself." And everyone else, they took an interest. And other ones are kind of like, "Oh, it's just a plain belt." But the ones that actually take an interest in what you're doing, those are the ones that matter.
I agree. I absolutely agree. And you should be very proud of yourself. You deserve a belt because, of the things that you've done and the things that you've accomplished.
No, absolutely. Now I'm going to pass the show over to you. It's the last 6 minutes. Was there anything you wanted to talk about, anything you wanted to promote, ask me? You can ask me anything you want.
Okay. Well, first of all, let me just say, like I said, I did 5 movies last year. And some of them should be coming out soon, and I'm pretty excited about them. I did a movie called The Big Rat with director Thomas Churchill, and Church is a great director. And I'm doing a movie called Amityville Rising with Church in September. So, that's pretty exciting stuff. And I think The Big Rat it's a real tongue-in-cheek creature feature, and I think it's going to be fantastic. And, and I hope everybody goes back and takes a look at, my old movies, which, I love. I was in a movie called Private Parts with Howard Stern. I was in a movie called Simone with Al Pacino, Finding Forrester with Sean Connery. And, I've been lucky. I've done like 25 movies. I've been on most of the episodics. And, I'm still out there working. I had a big GNC campaign on, which was beat average. And we did over 9,000 commercials. And, that went really well. And it was really exciting also because they were great people. So, I'm out there working, having a good time, making movies, making television. And, also I'm doing, coaching and coaching some of the best people in Hollywood. I coached Dennis Quaid and Claire Danes and Anna Paquin and, Rob Brown, who's amazing. He was on Blind Spot for the last 7 years. And Sonja Sohn, who should have been nominated for an Emmy for The Wire. And, she's working all the time. She was just on The Chi. So, I'm out there coaching and meeting people. Anybody could look me up on my website, barrypapick.com, or, contact me at bpapick@aol.com. Nice old school. And, I'm out there working, and that's what I love to do. And that's what I'll be doing until my days are over, just acting and working. I've been involved in a short film series with a group called Detroit Street Films, and we have a YouTube channel. It's all one word, Detroit Street Films. And I think there's 11 films up there. I'm probably in like 4 or 5 of them, and I wrote and directed one of them. And we have a great time. So Detroit Street is something that I'm really passionate about. It's run by a bunch of actors who you'd recognize, led by a guy named Gareth Williams, who was one of the original members of Naked Angels. And, we're out there working and having some fun. And besides that, I think putting out some really good stuff.
No, absolutely. Now, the last question I want to ask you is, how does one get to be represented? Because there's so many scams out there. What do you want to represent? Maybe hypothetically, what do you say, I actually know people who are legit? How do people actually tell the difference?
Well, this is what I think. And this is what I've always said. Get yourself into a class, and this way you start to get yourself into a community. And, through the community, you meet different people. I was represented because I was in a class and I did a scene night in a class, and an agent came and saw me and was interested. And then, of course, I started working and I changed agents because, I started to go to better and bigger agents, because of the work that I was doing. And I think that that's how you get represented. You don't just go out and go to parties or go out and meet people, because, it's a very quick fix, and you probably get represented by very bad people. But, what you do is you get into a class, you learn how to act, you study, you make acting a craft, and you make it a lifestyle. And from that lifestyle, you meet people, and those people introduce you to who they're represented by.
No, absolutely. Now, the last question I want to ask you is, because I'm always willing to be an actor, I would love to try it, but do you think what I'm doing right now, do you think I have to look for someone to represent me, or do you think eventually someone will come across me and who wants to represent what I'm doing?
I think it's fiction that people come across you. I think that you have to put out feelers, and you're lucky you live right next to New York City, right?
Yes.
And there's a lot of people there who are who represent people like yourself, who have talk shows and who are looking to grow. So I think that you have to put out feelers and send out letters and tell people what you're doing. And then people come and see what you're doing, and then they're excited by it. People don't stumble upon things.
No, I agree. Now, wrapping up the show, I do have a couple questions for you off the air. But the first one is, when I first approached you to once again be on the show for the third time, what was your first honest opinion, and what made you say yes? And for people who are hesitant about being on the show because they don't really know much about me, what would you have to say to them to make them say yes?
Yeah, well, I was very excited to come on the show for the third time, because I always feel like, we always have really frank and open discussions. I always think you ask some great questions. And, to me, that's what it's all about. So, I don't do a lot of podcasts, and I'm asked to do podcasts all the time. But I try not to, because I think most of them aren't very good. But I enjoy coming on with you, because I know that I'm going to be asked interesting questions, and we're going to have a good time.
No, absolutely. I do have a funny thing about that, and we could talk off the air. But wrapping up, it was a real honor and privilege having you as a guest, and I'm looking forward to part 4 down the road.
Hi guys, my name is Kat Johnston.
This is Donna Drake.
This is Kayleen.
Hi, my name is Kara Svuchek.
I'm Julia Brothers.
Jenna Curtis.
Hey, I'm Jenny Fon.
Hi, it's Mimi Chin.
Hi, my name is Ella Dorsch.
My name is Shauna Toft.
Hey guys, I'm Anastasia Edwards.
Hi, this is Jackie Nunez.
Actress Becky Hayes.
Hi, I'm Amelia Rose.
Hey there, I'm Saki Mieta.
Hi guys, I'm Alexandria Denise, and you're watching Keith Andrews' show.